Welcome everyone to the second presentation of the Arctic IT Microsoft Government webinar series. Today our panel of experts will share how ERP and CRM legacy systems can be modernized and centralized with Microsoft Dynamics 365. Our presenters today are Matt Borkowski and Bryan Schmidt from Arctic IT. Matt is our longtime expert on ERP applications, and Bryan creates CRM technology designed to help governments better serve their communities. Also joining us today is Joe Clancy from Microsoft. Joe is a senior technical specialist for the Microsoft Power Platform and will provide special insight on the Arctic IT Microsoft partnership. With that, I will turn the presentation over to Matt.
All right, thank you, Brooke, and welcome everyone. Glad to be speaking with you today alongside Joe and Bryan here. Just want to turn our cameras on and say hello. Know that a lot of people are working from home these days and bandwidth can be an issue. So as we get going here, we'll turn off the cameras. But glad to have you here today and excited to talk about Dynamics 365 and how it can be used to really help government entities around the country. So with that, we will be diving in to just a light agenda here today, where we're going to talk about just intelligent business applications on Dynamics 365, and we'll actually see a little bit of D365 in action. In particular, just giving you a real a live demonstration of a use case of using D365 to bring a powerful solution to a local government that is actually in place right now, just a real life demonstration for how that can be used to solve a problem scenario. And we'll talk about how studies are showing that there is a real return on investment to be gained with the Dynamics 365 platform, how you can get started with it, and just some time for Q&A at the end. And when we talk about a modern platform or business and digital transformation, things like that, really, what does that mean, or why is that such a buzzword? Why is this trend so important right now? And really, it's just time and time again, organizations and governments are realizing that legacy software is holding you back. And if you're not sure if it is, some key things that we see time and time again is you have teams that are working across the government space that are completely siloed. They've got similar data for citizens, for vendors, for billing, and all these things that are very, very important to the government as a whole, but they're in individual systems, completely isolated, making it with that data, requiring it to be duplicated in various spots, which means that it requires a lot of manual processes to verify what is our single source of truth, what is the truth in our data, who's got the most recent information, and how can we use that to make decisions to further our government goals. That just leads to insufficient tracking for where processes are throughout the organization, and can tend to lead to security issues as well, as you're trying to grant maybe access to data for folks that shouldn't see it, or you've got data duplicated in spreadsheets or various individual applications that are really hard to manage at an IT level to ensure that the data is protected, that your systems are protected. All of these items just showcasing time and time again how legacy software is holding organizations back. So when we think about exploring a modern solution, moving off of those legacy applications, again, we're very glad to have Joe from Microsoft here today to introduce what a modern solution looks like.
Thanks, Matt. So yeah, let's talk about the Dynamics 365 platform. Now, some of you may know Dynamics from many years ago when it was an on-prem product installed on a server you owned with a backing SQL database. And so there is a rich and varied history of how Dynamics got to the cloud. It started with that product being just lifted up and dropped into VMs running in the cloud. That began 5 or 6 years ago, and we've undergone complete transformation of architecture. It's no longer just an on-prem product that's been dropped off. It's been completely reimagined. So Dynamics 365 now has a planet scale database, a data store that's built for business data, and this whole wheel of first-party workloads that are built on top of it. So these are best practice realizations of what it means to run a customer service process or a field service process, or any of the others that you see there. Now, when we say realize digital transformation, the first step of that is taking some manual or paper process and replicating it, making it more efficient, giving multiple users access to it, and adding a bit of analytics on top of that. But the true transformation is stepping back and looking at what constitutes those business processes. Why are we doing each of these steps? And once you have business data in a platform like Dynamics, you can really light up that agility for changing how you do business and taking out the manual steps. When you have a fully relational schema, instead of having multiple copies of data everywhere, you have a single source of truth for what constitutes a customer or a constituent or a citizen. And that is immensely powerful. Now, all these different workloads are available to you, and it's all resident in US government data centers if you choose Microsoft's GCC cloud. On the public cloud, you can choose where your data resides. It's all your data. So despite it moving off-prem, it is very explicitly, in a contractual sort of way, data that you as a tenant admin own. There's no ambiguity there. Some of our competitors have different opinions of what it means to host customer data. Cloud security, very important. Now this, right now, all of the access to any of the Office suite, productivity apps like Outlook and Exchange, plus Dynamics, are entirely through Azure Active Directory. So that means you have a single identity. You can layer on top of that two-factor authentication if you desire it for your org. You can do Azure Active Directory conditional access if you want to really build in intelligent rules for identity and access management. And that's really important because it means that you have someone brought into the org, you have one account to provision. Someone leaves the org, you have one thing to turn off. And it's all within the single directory. And don't underestimate the power of that. If you're used to working in multiple identity systems, plus having user identities down at the app layer, that is a true mess compared to having one system of record there. So yeah, let's talk about the Power Platform. How is this all built up? So all of these apps, these workloads of things like customer service and sales and marketing, they're built on top of the Power Platform. So that is our realization of those best practices for user interface and business logic, built using Power Apps, Power Automate on top of the Common Data Service. Now, this enables you to build your own experiences and extend and customize those with very little effort and friction. So it's very much a no cliffs development experience of starting with something that's best practice and then adding, customizing with a beautiful intuitive designer, building business logic on the side with Power Automate. If you want to integrate to an on-prem data store, maybe some existing system of record, or you want to integrate with something that lives elsewhere, possibly in Azure, AWS if you choose it, or some other external system. We have connectors that let you do that. Now the data store underneath, that's the Common Data Service. You could think of that as the Dynamics database. And that is the single place for business data in your organization. And with careful curation, you can have a schema that represents many different workloads, but has that synergy of having a single customer record representing people or relationships in your org. This works well at small scale, if you're down in the 10 or 100 users, out to true planet scale. We have some truly extraordinary large customers that use this platform. Underneath, it's Azure, and you have the full power of the Azure stack available to you. So if you want to leverage Azure Cognitive Services or build a serverless function, or you have existing assets in the cloud, very easy to integrate. You have assets elsewhere, existing on-prem stuff, Oracle and DB2, no problem, you can integrate that as well. All of the surfaces available for customization have full API access underneath. You're never sort of stuck inside the designer. You can always reach down to the next layer. And on the right side, true integration with your existing productivity tool sets. So that means doing things like, if your users, if their primary daily tool for everyday work is Outlook, you can run Dynamics workloads, Power Automate approvals processes from within an Outlook experience. Plus allowing reaching outwards to have a deeper, more tuned experience, if you like. Always on everywhere. So a lot of these interfaces are well built for a laptop, a fully featured desktop, but they're also mobile first as well. So there are beautiful mobile players available for both the Dynamics first party apps, as well as Power Apps more generally, and Power Automate. And you don't have to, from an implementation point of view, you don't have to make any extra effort to make those go. They're out of the box, so you don't have to pay extra to be able to get those mobile capabilities. Always Active Directory, so there's no separate auth mechanism. There's no different app store to go to. You're logging in to your tenant just as the way you would do to get email or SharePoint, and you have full access to your business apps right there. Now let's talk about the Arctic IT partnership with Microsoft. So Microsoft does have a consulting organization that competes with Arctic, but we are pleased to invite Arctic to many engagements. We've had great successes here where I live in King County and with the city of Seattle, and Arctic really shines when it comes to agility and having a really great pace of implementation. We encourage you to see what reference customers we can provide, and we've had some great experiences we can point at. It's best to look at someone who's done a workload similar to yours, so you can see exactly what's possible. And so yeah, we love working together to please our customers.
All right, well, thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate having you with us today and being able to, you just said, shed some insight into a modern solution like Dynamics 365. And with that, we'll dive in a little bit more deeply to some of those D365 applications that we do use specifically to meet the unique needs of government entities. And there's a couple of components of that with D365, we're not just talking about an accounting system. We're not just talking about a CRM or customer engagement system or a field service system. All those applications that we saw earlier, they are all unified in a single platform. And that gives us the ability to use all of those tools to really enhance that citizen engagement, for fully integrated citizen portal, for being able to submit applications, exemption requests, all kinds of things that are normally paper-based workflows. At best, oftentimes they're fillable PDFs that folks maybe can fill out and bring in, but to really turn those into a paperless online web form with authenticated workflows behind the scenes to ensure that data flows through your organization properly, that the folks that need to see it can interact with it, make the determinations that need to happen, and really achieve that digital transformation we talked about earlier. And the nice thing is this is scalable and flexible. So when you're talking about D365, it is a subscription-based service. SaaS, as you often call it, subscription software as a service. And that means that, look, if you've got, if you want to start smaller, where you're bringing on certain services, certain programs, and then you can scale that up to include more users, more programs as things go on to continue to achieve and return on that investment. It allows you to do so. You're not making gigantic investments one shot at a time. And again, you've got 24/7 access really on any device, all protected by Microsoft's trusted cloud. giving you those automatic software updates. So gone are those days where you need to be down for 3 days because you've got that major version upgrade that's coming up, or where you realize, oh, if we don't upgrade now, we're not going to be supported, and you've got major capital investments just to keep your system up to date. And again, unified across devices. And what that means is we're not just talking about a web form or something that you can see, where that data goes with you wherever you go, and it automatically formats to fit different screens. So when you're designing a form, it's very easy to automatically format that, so that if you have your folks out in the field taking case information, where they're talking with a constituent, entering in that information, they can easily do it on the phone, and that data is immediately in the system, ready to go, with just a different form factor, a different device, to give you that very interactive experience to highlight what's most important for you on the different types of devices. And when we dive in a little bit more deeply and we think about the applications that support a lot of this, the financial backend to a lot of the Dynamics 365 applications in place, there are different versions of that, different options on the D365 platform, depending upon the size, scale, and functionality that you need for that solution. And so those are the Business Central solution and the Finance and Supply Chain Management solution from Microsoft. Later today, we'll be showing you a little bit of that D365 Finance and Supply Chain side. But the Business Central, it really gives you some very powerful functionality you need to support your operations, really for a lot of the smaller government agencies. When we start looking for entire organizations that are trying to manage that in one ERP solution with these great citizen engagement portal functionalities that you can leverage, that's where that finance and supply chain management comes in. And that goes beyond just what we call finance and supply chain management. That's with the financial things you might think, or the inventory and warehouse management, but also full-on project management integrated with Microsoft Project. So your project users can design those your project work breakdown structures and have that all captured inside the ERP, back and forth. Again, utilizing those productivity apps that are so core to so much of what we do daily. Bringing that Power BI for powerful reporting and analytics. We've already talked a little bit about the citizen engagement, but also vendor engagement. Communicating with your vendors, having them submit invoices, purchase order confirmations, bidding, contract management, all that stuff, being able to bring that all together, and then giving you retail and e-commerce functionality to really expand that. As we've done with some major government organizations already, to be able to have your core financial and ERP functionality, but then also that retail and e-commerce for where you need to take fees and funds and everything with a true point of sale type interface, whether that's on the web or in person. And while we have talked about a number of times that ability to take your business with you, to be able to work on the go, it's important to note that we're not just talking about some simple web browser, sometimes difficult to use functionality that you see with some solutions that are out there, but true iOS, Android apps to give you full functionality, whether you're on a tablet, whether you're on a phone, to make that data more usable, all the way down to getting those dashboards, your Power BI reports, all that right on your phone, so you can make those decisions where you need. So when you need to approve a transaction, when eventually we can start traveling again and all that, you have that information at your fingertips. You don't have to wait till you can get in your laptop, log into the full system to dive through that. All that information right at your fingertips in the app to be able to make those decisions right then and there and be able to move on with your day. And then when you start thinking about things like what Joe mentioned, the Azure Cognitive Services, that ability to leverage the state-of-the-art machine learning functionality throughout the application, throughout D365. A simple example, but a powerful one, is if you're really using it for sales-related functionality. So whether that's maintaining contracts for land leases, Department of Natural resources is a common use, or things like that, where they're managing those resources. The ability to forecast based upon, for the system to offer suggestions based upon trends and analysis and things that it's seeing that maybe you didn't think of, to make sure that you're not running low on key resources that you need to run your government. And being able to learn from you as you use the system to provide suggestions, and really help achieve some of the automation that you wouldn't have thought otherwise achieved with those Azure machine learning or Azure AI services. And again, when we talk about those most commonly used productivity apps, Outlook, one of the Outlook and Excel being key components of that, not having to leave those applications to be able to interact with your Dynamics 365 data. Here's a screenshot of the D365 add-in for Outlook. So you get an email from a customer, an email from a vendor, right without leaving Outlook, being able to see if it recognizes that contact is belonging to a vendor, being able to see your vendor balance, being able to see open purchase orders that maybe they haven't delivered on yet, see outstanding invoices that you need to pay them. So you have that information right there without having to log into a different system, because it's all using that same Azure Active Directory authentication, as Joe was talking about earlier, to really just be able to achieve efficiencies that you never thought possible before. And we've talked about Power BI and Power Automate, Power Apps a little bit already. That Power Platform, being able to fully expand your usage and add functionality very easily with these no-code, low-code app designers, dashboard creators, and these workflow automation tools to really just expand and bring extra functionality and extend the data that you have with that Dynamics 365 database, that common data service. Just makes things really, really usable to achieve solutions for unique situations in new ways never before possible. And just a full app store with, for those of you that are coming off of or have used maybe older Dynamics legacy platforms, as Joe was talking about earlier, those on-prem, a lot of those same vendors, ISVs that have created great functionality that users have come to know and love, they don't have to leave a lot of those. A lot of those are available for D365 as well, so you can continue to use some of that functionality by ISVs that you have in the past when moving to D365 from legacy Dynamics platforms. But we can talk about the solution and just the power of opportunities that Dynamics 365 brings. But it makes most sense for you to see that in action. So to kick us off today in doing so, I'm going to reintroduce Bryan Schmidt from our team, who's going to give us a quick overview of a real solution achieved using the Dynamics 365 platform.
All right, great. Thanks, Matt. Let me know when that comes up. And
yep, we can see it.
All right, so thank you. And so to give you an idea of a simple scenario that we have implemented at other organizations and government organizations that want to manage some of their data across their enterprise, a scenario would be business licenses and managing the issuing of those licenses, both from an incoming application, and as well as managing the renewals of those business licensing. That's a common scenario that most city or county or different organizations must support. And today they're either doing that manually through paper forms, or they may have some point solutions that do this. This is an example of how we've built out a solution on top of Dynamics 365 to leverage the entire stack of automation and streamlining those processes within a common platform. So you'll see right here that I'm running inside of our browser. So the key element here is that I'm not running on a desktop application. I just open my browser on my laptop and I log into the service, and I can get full access to the application and the data, whether I'm in the office or at home or on my mobile device. So a common scenario for organizations is to be able to have a dashboard. typically staff, when they come in the morning, the first thing they want to be able to do is check their email. So they might launch Outlook to check and see what actions have come in overnight. But we'd ideally like this to be their second application that they open up, to be able to look at, okay, what are the applications that came in overnight and that I need to take action on. So I can see as an example here, some key performance measures that I might want to be able to use for myself to say, what are the current number of licenses that we're managing, organize them by type, and be able to manage an overview of all the status of each of the licenses, so I could see where all my different actions are sitting, and if I need to take action on one of these, that as a manager or a supervisor, I might want to be able to look at this and say, hey, why is this sitting out here for so long? So this is intended to be an action dashboard that I can use to actually open up and look at specific records. Either drill in from here. I can even come in here and say, okay, I want to view this, and it takes me right to that view along with the records that make that up. And let's say, for example, I want to filter. I can actually take this and click on this little pie, and you'll see that it's filtering the results to just that section. So those records that are in that query. So it's an interactive. You don't just have dashboards and data that's just sitting there visible. These are all actionable components that you can navigate and use. So a key element of this is managing the accounts and who you're doing business with. And one of the key things here is that I can have views, and in the past, in legacy systems, you might have the list of all the accounts or businesses that you work with, but I might want to filter this list and provide maybe only those that are assigned to me or those that I follow. I can have many different ways of slicing this information to access not only just a static report, but this is live. This is performing a query on the live data and coming back with a result. So the scenario here might be, I might want to, I got a call from a medical center, the Virginia Mason Medical Center, and I see that these are the three organizations. Now you can notice a little icon here. There's a hierarchy. I can drill in on that, and it shows me the hierarchy of all the different business associations. So Virginia Mason Medical Center has these sub organizations that are reporting into it. So you can use this as a way to not only drill into the parent organization and maybe their business information, so their phone number, contact, website, but you can also capture the details of all the communication. So like we mentioned before, that Outlook communication, appointments, phone calls, and so forth, I can create all these activities in this one place. And this is then shared across all the people that have access to the Dynamics 365 system, can then pull up this information and see what are those past communications, either the emails that have been brought in or emails that have gone out, as well as phone calls, phone call notes that can be useful information. And then, of course, you can capture, who are the business contacts within that Virginia Mason, so they might be able to capture that Renee is maybe my billing point of contact, and Susan is like the licensing specialist that we work with. And you can see that they've got all sorts of integrations, such as Bing mapping, so you can tie that into your Dynamics 365 solution, and that's not only available for you in the office, but also on a mobile device as well. So in this example, what we show is a scenario where this business might have multiple locations, and we can capture the details of all the different licenses and maybe the license history, so that I can see that over the years I've created 3 licenses for this organization, and maybe in this case I'm rolling up and paying the business license for all the organizations at the same time. I can see all of those in one dashboard and one historical view. So let me drill in on one of those. And now let's say, okay, so this is a license, that was created, and the amount, the license fee, was calculated based on the details. And what I'm doing here is actually capturing all the different organizations. So in this case, they might be rolling up the license fee for all the sub-organizations and paying them as one obligation. So I can capture the due diligence. What type? What is their status? What fiscal year does it apply to? Is it approved or is it in review? Or is it rejected? And then all the background. And these are very configurable. These are adding these fields and yes, no, and date and amounts. The solution is intended to be highly configurable to allow you to modify these solutions to meet your business requirements and as they evolve going forward. That's where the power of the Power Platform comes into play, to be able to evolve as we go forward. So in this scenario, and you can manage the renewal. So again, this is just a demo environment, but it gives you that idea of how this might work. So now you'll see, for example, that there's this license that was due. It shows that its renewal date happened out here, but I can, so let me come back here and I want to dive into the license obligation. So when that $2,400, what that shows me is that this license is a recurring $2,400. So maybe they pay that license renewal quarterly to manage that fee. So what we do is we actually create obligations that would be managed between Dynamics 365, both from the customer engagement side and the finance side. And what we might show here is an example of a license renewal that was due, and we can see by this that it's balance due of $2,400. So that's what we're showing right here. And we can see the past payments that have been made based on, they're paying their previous license fees. So this is an example of a way where the marrying of the Dynamics 365 system from the managing the licenses and the applications and the communications that go along with that license with the finance system. And what we can do is then show how this will transition over into the finance system as well. But before I do that, I want to quickly show how this experience might look from an end user perspective. So right now, what I'm doing is logging in as a portal. And this portal would be an external facing portal that would allow that business to be able to come in, log in, update their profile information, their contact information, and then maybe manage their sub businesses. So I can click on this tab and I can see all the sub businesses that apply to me. And when I see one of those, I can click on that, and it gives me that ability to then go in and edit the details, or at a minimum, just view the details from that account and be able to then say, all right, I need to submit a new license renewal or pay that license renewal for an upcoming year. So the portal is a great tool that's in the quiver of capabilities of the Power Platform that allow us to extend these services and allow those businesses to interact with my organization or your government. So now let's go back to this scenario and we'll talk briefly around how this might show up as a recurring payment for this business to be able to pay this license fee. So what I'll do now is hand it back over to Matt. And Matt will then show you how this obligation for payment might show up in the ERP system within Dynamics 365.
All right, thank you, Brian. Well, that was a great way of seeing what a front-end individual might be working with the ability to help manage the business licenses and permits and everything that goes through that for a city government. And what I'm going to show, as Brian was saying, is what that might look like then for the back-end financial user, for the folks that are responsible for the treasury components, that are responsible for monitoring those and taking action upon those balances that are overdue, and just walking through the financial capabilities of that. So what I'm showing now is another Dynamics 365 application, all part of that same integrated platform that Bryan was showing, but this is on the D365 finance and operate or finance and supply chain management, and in particular we're looking at the finance functionality today. So in a minute, we'll go in and see that same business license that Bryan was talking about in here as part of that shared record set. But just to give you a little bit of a feel for how you use the application. When I'm logged in, depending upon my user and the roles I have, I've got a number of the different workspaces assigned. And a great way of seeing just some of that treasury functionality is going into the bank management. And these workspaces are a great way of kind of combining taking the actions that you might normally do, like reconciling bank statements, interacting with your bank, the transactions flowing back and forth, reconciling that, performing transfers, all that kind of stuff. But then also combining that with the reports and dashboards and Power BI functionality that I've said I wanted to see. So in my demo data here, just a quick example of looking at my main operating bank account and the trends and balances that we've got here. And this is really concerning to me. Obviously, this has a lot to do with the demo data that's here. But when I see this graph, when I see this great report and the different data points here, it is not just a static report. When we're looking at a modern platform like Dynamics 365, you want to be able to take action and interact and find out more information with the data that you're seeing. So on the banking side, great example here is just, I want to know why my balance just took a nosedive as of this day. So by clicking on that, it's going to quickly, because I'm authorized to do so, take me to all those payments that got posted on this day. So here I'm looking at this list of transactions, and I'm seeing a whole bunch of them here. And in particular, I'm going to come down and let me pick one of these checks. Like here's a $500,000 payment. This I want to take a look at. I don't have to go into another system or switch to a different area to see this. For instance, I just want to take a look at the check information here. So by highlighting on that, I can see the check number. And as Bryan was showing earlier with the queries and the functionality, it's very easy to add, change, do some ad hoc type reporting items to this. So by simply right-clicking what's here, I can say, look, I want to see more information. What columns are available? So I saw the number, the vendor number that this was paid to, but that doesn't give me a lot of information. So maybe I want to see the receipt number, the who received it, what type of record they are, and also who it was that actually printed the check. So without having to leave the screen, without having to ask someone to publish an update or anything to my query here, I'm very quickly able to see, oh, this went to our electronics vendor, and the check was created by user Abe Brower. But still, I want to see more information. What were we paying for this amount, right? So I'm going to click on those invoices. See the invoices that this paid, and I can see it's just one invoice for 500,000. But still, I want to continue to keep looking down and seeing more. So let's see all the transactions associated with that. And let me take a look. So now I'm getting some more details, and we look, taking a step further, I can see, well, not only was there an invoice, but I want to see who approved it. Where did that start with? We're talking about the purchase order here as well, right? And now I'll go ahead and view those details. So you can continue to drill down, even though I started with just looking at a dashboard of my bank balance. And I can follow that string all the way through and come down and see the original purchase order. That was who approved it, where did it start, what all was on this. I can see this was that big electronics purchase. Maybe we were redoing one of our big auditoriums for the city, and here's all the information that here was the massive purchase order, and I can see even the attachments. Here was the webcams. Here's the documentation supporting why we chose this particular camera to put in our new auditorium. Again, just starting with the dashboard, and that type of functionality is available throughout the D365 platform, and something that we're just excited about when using a modern application like this. Now to shift gears back to that user story of managing that business license for the Virginia Mason Medical Center, I'm going to use that same workspace type navigation scenario, but I'm going to start in that customer invoicing, because each of those in this solution, each of those business licenses was creating an invoice, an accounts receivable invoice for us to see. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look. We see we've got an unposted one here. So this is what the Virginia Mason Medical Center, this is what came over from the front end solution that Bryan was looking at. Because it's not until we really get, till it becomes an accounting transaction, do we need to include the financial side of that. So here I can see this was that 6/30 date that we were looking at. You see this was a business license renewal. I could start seeing the accounting breakdown here. You know, what was the, what's the revenue account that it's posting to? What is the fund, program, department, all those things behind the scenes? Are there any sales taxes, additional taxes associated with this that need to compound that business license? In this case, no, it was none. I can come down, see that obligation number. Again, see any additional details. It's that business license renewal. And this is where we do have some of those payment schedules. So in this case, a recurring item that said, you know, for this business license, you know, for the course of the year, is broken down into 4 payments they need to make once a quarter. And so you can see the payment schedules as it's flowing through and assigned with it. But beyond that, maybe I want to see, you know, what does the customer, what is the current balance for this, for the Virginia Mason Medical Center? And when I switch over to see, you know, this individual customer's view and balance, D365 gives us what we call billing classifications. You know, so often, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, you have different systems that are managing the interaction, the billing, the types of fees and everything that you are interacting with. In this case, with the different businesses in the city, and so therefore what is their utilities balance? What is their business license balance? What is their tax balance? All these things that flow through, giving you a one spot to see it, where I can see overall right now, the balance for the Virginia Mason Medical Center is $2,500. But I can break that down with the integrated information from these various systems into those billing classifications. So I could see we've got the $2,400 that is owed for that business license renewal that we saw earlier, but there's also $187 just in miscellaneous charges that's out here, or those additional billing classifications like utilities, to bring that all into one spot to be able to manage that. So you can get 2 true trial balances across the board for a customer or a vendor or an individual constituent or client that you're working with. And of course, to be able to see that, I can start by just breaking down those open transactions. So I could see what they haven't paid and drill down to get the details, like that miscellaneous item that's there. Want to know what was on that? Why does this have, why do they have a miscellaneous amount? And I could see the details of the items for that transaction. But now if I, taking a step back, if I also want to be able to see for this vendor, not just the open amounts, but everything that has related to that balance, here's where I'm getting that true trial balance, the ins and outs, the invoices, the payments, you know, the rolling balance that happened with each of those types of transactions to give me kind of where we're at today. Or of course, as you'd expect from a financial system, being able to break that down by aging periods and running all that. But that idea of billing classifications breaks down those data silos across the organization to give you a single place to see those balances, those trial balances for your different organizations, customers, vendors, the stakeholders that you're working with for your government entity. But of course, after recording those receivables, you want to be able to record those payments. Now, there's a number of ways that payments can be taken. Bryan showed us the portal for online types of payments. You can set up automatic bank drafts or those things. But no matter what happens, you're still going to have folks that are mailing in checks or coming in and making payments in person eventually, right? Those times we can actually interact with our constituents. Back in the good old days, right? But in this case, I'm going to run through that scenario of Virginia Mason Medical Center just sent in a check. So we've got someone working in the Treasury, taking cashier or whatever, taking those payments. And in this case, my scenario, my user has my own. I'm responsible for collecting those business licenses. I've got my own batch of payments I'm taking throughout the day, so I can reconcile that to my till at the end, however that breaks down, to be able to perform those deposit reconciliations as well, right? But in this case, I'm going to enter myself. I'm going to enter one of my customer payments. So I open up the open up the mail, so we had a check from the Virginia Mason Medical Center. So by selecting that that business, now I can see those two items that we talked about earlier. That business license renewal that's due, as well as the miscellaneous items. I could add additional columns just like I could in previous items, and now I can put the check number. Say that they sent us a check for $2,300, or in this case, I'll just call it $2,400. Add any additional descriptions. I call this the quarterly license payment. And down here, I can mark what they're paying, right? You can set up all kinds of rules to auto pay based upon priorities. If you barcodes can work. So if you're printing or sending actual invoices with barcodes, where you can just scan them, a lot of great functionality available to automate that process. But marking what they're paying, and you can go ahead and print receipts if you've got people right in front of you that they want to take a copy of that to show what's been paid, what hasn't. In this case, I can see that of the $2,400, all of that's been applied, so I can move on, let them know that, look, they just passed their due date, so they do owe us an extra $187.50 still, and you continue to work through and process those payments. You create those deposits at the end of the day for what gets taken to the bank and reconcile all that out. Allowing you to then take this information, as we saw earlier when Bryan was looking on the front end piece, where these payments, once posted, you'll flow back. So the folks that are talking with our customers, that are dealing with those business licenses on a day-to-day basis, can not only see the status of the license, but see the status of the payments without having to call finance, without having to dive into or log into another system, allowing that flow of information back and forth so everyone gets the information they need when they need it, and fully protected and secured along the way. All right, and our goal with that was for you to see just how a scenario like business licensing and business license renewals, how oftentimes in the past that involves multiple systems and spreadsheets and different departments, how that can be unified in a platform like Dynamics 365. And those types of solutions, we're working with individuals and customers every day to help come up with great solutions in D365 to meet those needs. And don't just take our word for it and Microsoft's word for it. We've drank a lot of Kool-Aid over the years. We love the D365 platform. But one of the handouts that's available in the webinar panel there is an independent research that was done by the Nucleus Research Organization that showed just a true return on investment for folks that have deployed D365 solutions, and something that we're very proud of, and we're seeing time and time again that the government entities are truly achieving great returns on the investments they're making in the technology platform. And just to recap, being able to collaborate with your citizens simultaneously, records throughout the organization, and engage with them via a modern platform, via portals, via the communication tracking components that Bryan was showing us, and giving both your users and your citizens a 24/7 engagement access, and being able to really extend and report on that information to make quick decisions and be able to provide that information to the folks who need it to make those decisions. And just ultimately, in general, that with D365, you can save time, money, and resources by deploying this great cloud technology with the security and everything that you need, and scale that out and take those bite-sized pieces of it to scale that out and really achieve that digital transformation for your government entity. And how can you get started?
Yeah, well, just one comment from the presentation that I absolutely have to highlight is that you're showing functionality that is uniting different data stores and going to places that might involve paper processes or legacy systems that require navigating multiple screens or multiple tools to get to that same data. And you're rationalizing that and modernizing that, and that's awesome. But entirely separate from that is you're offering new experiences. You're allowing that self-service portal so that the customer doesn't even have to occupy the time of a state or county employee in concluding a transaction. And that's the real transformational side of things, when you can light up those capabilities and really start to scale your business in a way that doesn't incur expense. So I love that. Thank you.
Yes, it's a very good point, Joe. I appreciate that. And just getting started, reaching out to a company like us, a partner like us, to be able to apply our security first approach to meet the needs that you have and our depth of experience across state and local and federal markets. We're excited and privileged to have a Microsoft MVPs, Microsoft 365, fast track solution architects. Just there's only a handful of these people in the world that Microsoft grants these titles to, and we are very excited to have those on staff and be able to help you make the best use of a modern platform like Dynamics 365. So as a follow-up to this, we'd love to perform a complimentary discovery workshop to help understand what types of pain points you are having, really where you are looking to expand technology to achieve those goals and things that Joe was just talking about. And together we'll look for opportunities to just transform your citizen engagement, to transform your experiences, as well as just achieving efficiencies throughout your organization. And we can help you design a strategic approach to mitigate those applications, help migrating those to the cloud, to the cloud, and just moving to the future of technology to help your organization. So as of this point, again, thank you for joining us today. We've got about 10 minutes left here. I'll turn this back over to Brooke to help kind of broker some questions here for us as we close out the presentation.
Thank you, Matt and Brian and Joe. That was just a great presentation. And our first question is, how do these applications meet security requirements, and how easily do they adjust to future requirement changes?
So I can take that one. This is Brian again. So this is a common question that most government organizations ask when, about, because with this additional services and the cloud hosting, how do we make sure that our data is protected in these cloud environments, and being able to interface with the external users and the constituents in a secure and private way. And the great news is that Microsoft has put a lot of work and effort, and they have a dedicated team of security professionals that work 24/7 to make sure that all the services that are provided, not only within Dynamics 365, but within Azure, are using the latest and most up-to-date current security practices to ensure the integrity and protection of your data, both in transit as it's coming back and forth to the browser, but also at rest when the data is stored on the servers out in the Microsoft cloud. If it's important to your organization, it's depending on the type of organization you have, you would qualify for what's called a Microsoft Government Community Cloud, which gives you an additional level of security on top of the normal Microsoft Commercial Cloud. That would be, have additional data center security that is applied to that instance. And then we Microsoft goes through an annual process of being certified and going through compliance of different organizations. And one of those compliance requirements that's common within government entities is what's called FedRAMP. Or NIST, the FIPS, the Federal in Security Process compliance requirements. So those are two examples of compliance requirements that are met by these services and can support to protect the data going forward.
Terrific. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, and I don't see any other questions, but if you have any other questions that you want to, or any other information you want to share, Matt and Brian and Joe?
Nope. Again, I'd just like to, encourage for those attendees to, reach out and ask if you would like some discovery. If you have that legacy application inside your environment that's causing pain, or maybe not as maybe reaching the end of its life. If it's something that you've built internally, we can definitely help evaluate and make a recommendation. Either using the Dynamics 365 platform or any of the other platform tools in the Microsoft stack. But that's our goal as a partner, to work with you to evaluate your current position and see how we can use the current technology tools set provided by Microsoft to be able to improve and streamline services and save you time and money.
I want to note, go ahead.
I was just going to encourage folks to think outside of the box, and with that being that so often we've gotten so used to there only being certain options for meeting certain needs or problems out there. A great example is just the history of your property tax systems, and folks that were willing to ask the question of, rather than going with the way and the systems that have been used for years, could we look at a new platform in general, like a Dynamics platform, and achieve new functionality for lower costs with additional flexibility going forward? That sometimes there are solutions with a platform like this to problems that you didn't realize you had alternatives for in the past. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I wanted to note, I'm available for if you have compliance, security, or privacy concerns with the platform. I have rather deep experience on the product side at Microsoft of addressing those. And so, yeah, if you have unique requirements for the data at rest security, or configuring security roles appropriately, or getting the audit patterns right, I'd love to chat to work out a strategy appropriate for your org.
Yeah, please contact us afterwards with questions that you think of later. So I think I don't see any other questions. So I think we thank you all for coming today and hope you have a nice day.
It's all right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending. Have a great day.
Thanks and bye.